I wouldn't recommend doing this. Hey, look at that. They both light up. What's up, everybody? My name is Jaden. I am currently converting this 40-foot school bus into my full-time home, and I've been converting it for about the last year or so, and I've done a lot to it, but of course there's always more to be done, and there's a lot more to be done. So I'm starting to wire up some lights in the bus. You can see here I got a couple puck lights all wired up to down where the switch is going to be, which is going to be right about here, pretty close to my fuse block. And I want to test it out. I don't really know a better way to test it out than to use a battery, and I don't have a 12-volt battery, so I have a 9-volt. That should be enough to at least show me that it's lighting up. So let's see if these work. So I've got these two puck lights wired up with Wago lever nuts, and let me tell you, these lever nuts make it so incredibly easy. You might be able to tell these are really small puck lights, way smaller than I anticipated them being. So I actually got new ones that are going to be about double the size and hopefully twice as bright. And those just aren't here yet. So for the time being, I'm going to wire these up just to get my light runs in. And then when those lights come, these lever nuts are going to make it so easy to just take out these lights and put the new ones in, basically plug and play. So that's the plan for these. But let me go ahead and connect this little battery to the wires and see if we've got power going to both these lights. Okay, I can see both. I don't know if you guys can see both, but yeah, you can see them. Hey, look at that. They both light up. Obviously, they're not very bright at all. I mean, this is a 12-volt light and this is a 9-volt battery, so in theory, they should be a little bit brighter, but they're not going to be bright at all. Definitely not anything that I should be lighting my home with. So I think what's going to happen is I'm going to end up using these lights for things like under cabinets or on some other fixtures to kind of add some ambient lighting. But the lights that I'm ultimately going to put in my ceiling are going to be about twice as big and hopefully twice as bright. So we'll see what those look like when those get here, but I got the rest of these light runs to do right now, so I'm gonna get to that. So if you're curious on how these lever nuts work, if it wasn't clear how easy they are to use, I'll show you right here. So I'm just gonna strip back about a 1/2 inch from these wires here for my next light. So strip that back and strip that back. Sweet. So I got about a 1/2 inch on both these wires stripped back. Now I'm going to grab my lever nut. So if I'm going to be wiring up two lights in succession, so like I'll have a light here and then I'll have a little bit of an extension wire and then down the way I'll have another light, I'm going to use this 3-space lever nut here. It's got spaces for 3 wires. And this is just for the 12-volt DC side, okay? So there's only a positive and a negative wire. There's not 3 wires in the sheath. So literally all you do is you flip up this lever like that, just pull it back. It's got this little opening right here on this side, and these lever nuts too show you exactly how much wire you should strip for the lever nut. It's kind of having a hard time focusing here, but it has this little arrow space here that shows you exactly how much space you need on that wire to stick it all the way in. So you get that lever popped up, you grab your wire. For this stranded wire, I'd recommend just like twisting it together just by hand. Maybe not necessary, but it makes it easier to get all the strands in there nice and clean. And then you just insert the strands until you get all the way back there, and then you flip the lever down, and then boom, give it a little nice little tug and you can't get this wire out. It's pretty sweet. So then we're gonna grab another lever nut for the positive wire and do the exact same thing. Okay, so I got my little puck light here. It's got a black and a white wire. Make sure you know which one of these wires are positive and negative. For this one, it has a little label on the back that shows what it is. It says black is positive, white is negative. Just pay close attention so you don't accidentally mix the wrong wires with the wrong wires. You definitely want to keep positives with positives and negatives with negatives. So I'm going to start with a negative here. I got my white negative wire on the light, and I'm just going to go to the next space on the lever nut. Here, let me see if I can get you closer. I'm just going to go on the next space on this lever nut. So there are 3 spaces, just the next space on it. It doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to use the next space. Flip up the middle lever here on the negative wire, insert my white negative wire from the light, flip it down, give it a little tug, make sure it's all nice and clean in there, and you're good. And then just do the same with the positive wire. So the black positive wire goes to the red positive wire. And you flip up that middle lever, put the wire in until you hit the back wall there, flip the lever down, and you're good. And then you just want to double check and make sure you got everything in, which I actually did not. So that's why you double check. See, the wire there got a little bent. So you just want to make sure you don't catch anything. That's why it's easier to twist the wires together. So let me try that again. There we go, I didn't catch on anything that time. Flip the lever down, double check. Yep, all good. So that's wiring up this light. And if you only had 3 space lever nuts and you were just doing one light, you weren't having anything coming out of the space, that's totally fine. You don't need to use all the spaces, but I'll show you why I used a 3 space lever nut versus a 2 space lever nut in this specific instance. So I'm gonna go grab an extension wire and my second light. Okay, so I'm getting my extension wire made. I just cut a section of this 16-2 wire to kind of act as a space between the lights. If you don't need extra space and you want to do 2 lights next to each other, like within a couple inches of each other, you can just not do this extension wire, but I want mine to be a little bit farther apart, so I'm gonna make this. So I'm just gonna strip back a little bit of this outside jacket here. Be careful not to cut myself or cut through the wire. So just make a little slice down the middle there with my little utility knife, peel back the outer jacket insulation, grab my 2 wires, pull those out like that, give it a little bend here, and then come through with my utility knife and just cut that excess jacket off, and then tuck those nice and neatly back in the jacket. Okay, there you go. Now you got 4 free wires that you can strip about a 1/2 inch off. I come through with my wire strippers. Go ahead and get about a 1/2 inch off this one. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. It's that easy to make an extension wire. If you don't have one of these tools and you're going to be stripping a lot of wire, I would highly recommend getting this. I think this thing was like 30 bucks, but dude, the ease of stripping wire with those things is absolutely unbelievable. Like if I was trying to strip wire with regular wire strippers, I would be sitting there for at least 3 times the amount of time trying to strip those wires, and I would probably, almost fell, and I would probably end up cutting a fair bit of strands too. So, you know, if you're not necessarily skilled as an electrician and you're going to be doing a lot of this wire stripping, I would highly recommend just getting one of those tools. It's so nice. So now I'm going to be putting in a second light to be controlled by the same switch. So when I flip the switch, both these lights are going to come on versus just one. And like I said before, if you don't want to space out your lights much, you don't have to make this extension wire, but I want mine to be a little bit farther apart. So this is why I use that 3 space lever nut in this instance, because I'm having another light branch off from this light. So I'm gonna grab one side of my extension wires, the positive and negative, give the strands a little twist, and then come up and color match the wires. So I got my red wire coming out to my black wire and then going back into another red wire here. So I'm going to insert my red positive wire from my extension all the way until it's the back, flip the lever down, give it a little tug, make sure it's good, check the bottom, yep, we got a good connection there. So move on to the negative. I'm gonna flip up the negative one here, flip the lever down, give it a little tug, and we're all good. So here are the lever nut connections here. So I have, this is my positive lever nut, this is my negative lever nut. So I have my negative wire first coming from my light switch, which will be down here. I have that coming up from my light switch to this first lever nut here. And then from this lever nut, I have my negative wire to my light, leading to my light. And I want to make another light come off of this light. So I made my extension wire, and I have my negative extension wire just grouped in with these two negative wires from the light and my switch wire. And then that's gonna branch off to where the next light is. And same with my positive. And these lever nuts are pretty cool. Sorry, it's hard to focus this thing, but these lever nuts are pretty cool because they have a clear backing, so you can really easily see your connection to your stranded wire or your solid wire if you're using solid wire, just to make sure that everything is nice and clean and you don't have any strands that are hanging out or bent and not connected well. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab my lever nuts and my second light. Okay, so I have my second light here, and just to demonstrate these, I have a 2-space lever nut here because I'm not gonna have any more lights branching off of this one. So I don't need to leave an extra space for another wire to come in. I can just use this dual lever nut here. It's all good. So now I have 2 lights that are going to be eventually hooked up to the same switch, and I'll prove that working right now. I don't have my electrical system hooked up or built yet, so I don't have anything really to test these lights on. I just kind of have to either believe that the work is good, which I do, or use some kind of power supply to test the wires. Now, I will say that using what I'm about to use is probably not recommended. All I know is that it works, and if I'm safe enough about it, I'm not going to hurt myself, and I don't think I'm going to damage any components, so I'm going to keep doing that. A 9-volt battery, and it has really easy to access positive and negative terminals right here. So all I'm going to do is put the positive wire on the positive terminal, negative wire on the negative terminal, and that should show me if I did everything right. And if I did everything right, the lights should light up. Simple as that. And like I said, I wouldn't recommend doing this. All right, I got all but my bathroom lights wired up, and let me show you. So we got 2 lights right here, 1, 2 for like the general entryway / living room area. I'm gonna have 4 lights right here for the kitchen. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 for the kitchen. I'm gonna have 2 lights for the hallway, and honestly, I think I'm just gonna keep the hallway lights as these exact lights because they don't necessarily need to be big and bright to light at a bigger space. Like, it's just gonna light this little hallway section. So I think I'm gonna keep those as the lights they are. And then I've got 2 lights for the bedroom. And like I said before, I think I'm gonna save doing the bathroom lights until I build up like the framing for the bathroom wall, just so I can run wiring through the wall, and so I can put a switch kind of on the interior bathroom wall rather than like the outside bus wall. So since we're on the topic of wiring up lights, I figure this is a good opportunity to go over the type of wire that I used for all my rough-in wires and why I chose to use that kind of wire in my build. So typically, if you were going to be wiring up, say, a house or a stationary wiring situation, you would be using something like Romex, which is similar in shape and look to the wire that I used. However, it is a solid copper wire and it's not tinned. So what does that mean? Well, being solid copper wire, it's not actually designed to work well in environments that experience a lot of vibrations. So in a bus, in a van, in an RV, or a boat, you're going to experience a lot of moving around and a lot of vibrations. And solid copper wire is not designed to stand up to a lot of vibrations. I don't particularly know why. It's just not good in that scenario. So one, solid copper wire is not the way you want to go for something that's going to be moving around. And two, Romex is not tinned, so it's not good with moisture. And in something like a school bus or an RV or a boat or a van conversion or something like that, you're going to be susceptible to quite a bit more moisture than you would be in a house typically, for a couple reasons. One, your walls are typically going to be made of metal, and two, you're not going to have as much insulation as you could possibly have in a house. You're going to have a fraction of the thickness of insulation there, so there's a lot more of a chance that moisture is going to seep through, and you need a wire that's going to be able to stand up to that and not corrode over time. And that's why a tinned wire is recommended for marine environments or environments where you're going to be experiencing a lot more moisture than normal. What I used is a marine grade wire. So I've got a couple marine grade wires here. You can see they look pretty similar to Romex in their shape. It's kind of like a flat run of wire with an outside jacket on it with, you know, your wires on the inside of the jacket. But like I said before, where this differs from Romex is, one, it's stranded wire. So I don't know if you're going to be able to see, if it'll focus maybe. I don't know if this is going to focus, but these wires are stranded. So it's a bunch of tiny little strands of wire that are wrapped up together in the insulation of the wire that make up essentially the size of a standard solid copper wire. And this is something that can stand up to vibration really well, the strands. I don't entirely know why. I don't know, but that's just how it is. And the other thing too, you might be able to see these are not like a copper color, and that's because these are tinned. These are good for moisture-rich environments. I mean, it's made for a boat, right? Like it's marine grade, right? It's made for marine environments. So in a school bus or a van, you're gonna potentially have quite a bit of moisture depending on where you are, depending on how much insulation you have, and also depending on if you have any leaks in your system. So having something like this that's going to stand up to moisture really well is kind of a huge deal. So I have a couple different types of wires. I have 3 conductor wire and 2 conductor wire. 3 conductor wire is going to be used for your 120 volt AC applications like your wall outlets, maybe a mini split, maybe a washer dryer combo, or lights if you aren't doing like 12 volt puck lights. Also like a fridge maybe, you know, anything that's going to be 120 volt you're going to use 3 conductor wire for. So it has 3 wires in the jacket. It has a hot, which is the black, a ground, which is the green, and a neutral, which is the white. This kind of wire is 2 conductor wire. So you can see there are 2 wires in this jacket, a red and a black, so a positive and a negative. This is the kind of wire you're going to want to use for your 12 volt DC applications. Like for me, my puck lights are going to be 12 volt, my fridge is going to be 12 volt, water pump, propane water heater, oven and stove, all going to be 12 volt applications, and this is the kind of wire that you're going to want to use for that. And I haven't really done a cost comparison between something like Romex and marine grade wire, but in something as small as a school bus conversion or an RV or a van or a boat, you're really not running a whole lot of wire, maybe a few hundred feet at most. So it's really worth it to spend a few extra bucks on a really good quality wire for your application. So for this wire, this is 12 gauge 3 conductor wire. I believe I got this for about $1 a foot on Amazon. This is Anchor brand marine grade wire. You don't need to get Anchor brand. There are a ton of other marine grade wires out there on Amazon and other suppliers that are competitively priced and have good reviews. So you don't have to do Anchor brand, but this is the one I landed on. And like I said, I got this 12 gauge wire for about $1 a foot, which I believe I ran about 200 feet of that wire, which sounds like a lot, but it's really not, and it kind of goes a lot quicker than you might think. So about 200 bucks for all of my 120 volt AC wiring. That's not too bad. And then for the 12 volt stuff, I believe I got, let's see, I got 16 gauge wire, I got 10 gauge wire for my fridge, and I believe I got a little bit 14 gauge wire for my Max Air fans and whatnot. I can't really remember right now, but I at the very least got 10 gauge and 16 gauge wire for my 12 volt applications. I'm not really going to get into sizing your wires. I'm not an expert in that. I have a baseline understanding that I think is good enough for doing what I'm doing, but I don't want to make any recommendations. All I would say is find an online calculator to size your wires and just use that. Or there are plenty of charts that you can look at online that will show you what size wire you want to use for whatever you're trying to power, be it your Max Air fans, your air conditioner, your outlets, your fridge, whatever it is. I'll put a link to the wire sizing calculators that I used when deciding how to size my wires in the description of the video. I would just recommend finding anyone that you like to use and just use that. I'll also put a link to the wires that I got here. Like I said, you can get them a bunch of different places. I just got mine off of Amazon for about $1 a foot for my 12 gauge 3 conductor wire. So using that as a baseline, you can kind of estimate how much you should be spending on your house wiring. And that's where I'm calling it. So thanks for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.